congratulations on your new camera. By the end of this video, you are going to be very confident on how to use your camera. You'll be able to go out there, take photos, videos, and get some really good results. And it's not going to be stressful. You know, when you first get honestly, it's such a complicated and powerful camera like this, even though it's very easy to use, it has so much power that it's just overwhelming at first. You might not know where to start, and it's just like, you know, you open the box and you're just like, oh my goodness. So don't worry if that's you. I'm going to walk you through it and try to keep it as simple as possible. So what I have here is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 Creator Combo, and in this video, I'm going to break it down beginner's guide style for you guys, get you up and running as fast as possible, and as the video goes, I'll get into more details and more of the more advanced settings. So it's kind of going to be like a quick start guide in the beginning area, and then like I said, as it goes, I'll expand and get much more detailed into all the insane, powerful features that this turnkey camera / gimbal offers. Absolutely incredible product here. I'm really impressed by this camera. This is one of the coolest cameras I've ever used, and I've had it for a couple of weeks now, and I'm absolutely blown away at the image quality, video quality, how well the gimbal performs, the camera, just the way the user interface works is great. So I'm going to walk you through this step by step, assuming that you know nothing. So somebody coming from a smartphone or had never used a camera before, that is where I'm coming from with this video. If you know some of the basic stuff, you can just skip ahead if you want to the section that you need. I'll put some chapter markers in the video so you can kind of navigate to different sections if you prefer to do it that way. If I miss anything in the comments section below, be sure to ask. If you have questions, I'll be happy to help. This is the Creator Combo Kit. So when you take everything out of the box, this is what you get. It gives you this nice little pouch where everything can fit in nicely if you want, just to carry this pouch around. And everything here will fit in the pouch, like nice and neat and organized and protected. So everything out of there and unbaggaged, this is what it looks like. A lot of this stuff was individually wrapped, so I took everything out. It's padded. Looks like it's kind of waterproof looking as well with the zipper. You can see how it has the rubber on the zipper. So I'm really glad they included this. So what we have here is like a protector case. That's what this thing is. And this is really cool because it actually can hold some of the accessories as well. So you can put your black mist filter, if you decide to buy one of those, can go right in here. And also the wide angle lens, which does come with the Creator Kit, that's what this is right here, that can go in there as well. So you can actually bring those accessories with you in this little handle. And what you do is, when you shut your Pocket 3 off, it looks like this, or when you take it out of the box, it looks like this. So it goes screen down like this, and when you put it in there, it kind of slips in there just like so. And now notice how the little camera can't rotate, so there's no way to scratch the lens when you have it in this nice little storage device. Now this you could just put right in your pocket. You can actually just put this right in your pocket. You don't have to worry about the screen getting scratched and things like that. Now, if you put it in your pocket like this, you can scratch this screen, and this kind of can rotate. So this can like rotate around if it's in your pocket. You see that? And now the lens is exposed and you can scratch it very easily. So highly recommend you use this little carrying case. There's also a spot up here on the top for the mic. So you can just clip the mic in like so, and now the mic is locked into the top. Very convenient. Now you have a charging cable here. It's just a USB-C to USB-C. They don't actually give you the wall charger with this kit, but you could use any cell phone charger. But if you get like a nice PD power source, something that's like 60 watts or something like that, you can charge this very quickly. It's like 80% charge in like 15 minutes, which is amazing. So that's what you're going to want to do when you first get this. And you have a USB port right here on the bottom where you can charge it. So I have my USB cable right here, and I'm just going to plug it in and start the charging process. And you can see the little green light lit up there for a second. That's just letting you know that it's charging, but this is at 100%, so it's pretty much done. But you're going to want to get this thing charged up first thing. Next, what we have over here is a little grip extender that goes on the bottom. And you can see how it has a USB-C port on there as well. So when you have this grip on there, you can charge it. The purpose of this little extension grip is to give you access to the quarter 20 thread here. And that will allow you to screw this little mini tripod on, for example, or a tripod plate, so you can mount this to your tripod. And how this connects is very simple. It basically goes on so like the grip matches. So it goes on like that. And it's got these little grippies on the side. You'll see how they snap in. So now they just clipped in like that, and now this grip is on there and secure. To take it off, you press this button and you'll see these little side things open. See how they open like that? And now you can take it off. So again, these little grabbers on the side is how this works. So in case you are unaware, throw that on there like that, and now we can screw the little tripod to it like so, and now you have a little mini tripod that you can use with your gimbal if you want. So that's what that does. Now, so let me just pop that off. And now you also have this other grip that comes with the creator kit. So this is actually a battery as well. So this gives you a lot more battery life. And if you slide this on, you can see it's got the green light there. And now if I plug the cord in and charge, I'm gonna make sure it's on all the way. There we go. This one actually wasn't clipped on. So now this is charging. You can see it blinking right there. So now it's gonna charge up the grip, and when you're using this, it'll actually use the battery grip power first. And so when the battery grip dies, then it'll switch to the battery in the actual camera itself. So this will extend your battery life quite a bit. And that's how I've been using it for the most part with this grip. And then on the bottom of this grip, you also have the 1/4-20, so you can screw your tripod to it, which is what I'm going to do right now. Like so. And I'm just going to unplug this from charging for the moment. Alright, so just a couple other things here. We have the DJI mic that comes with this. This is a very nice mic. It has this little dead cat here that goes on the top, so you can see it'll just help with wind noise and stuff. And you can see you have a hole right here where you can actually plug in a regular lav mic if you want. That's what this plug is for, but it also holds this little wind diffuser, so it kind of pops in there like so. And then you got a power button, you got a link button here if you need to connect it to your device. When I turned the mic on, it just automatically connected to the Pocket 3, so you shouldn't have to worry about having to connect it. But if you do need to connect it to like another device or something, or if it doesn't connect automatically for you, you just hit this link button once the power's on, and it'll blink, and then it'll like be in like searchable discovery mode, and then you can connect it very easily. You also have a USB-C port here to charge the mic, and you have a record button on here as well. If you hit the record button, it'll actually record a separate recording onto this little microphone as well. By default, it will record into the camera though, so this would be like a backup recording, which is very nice. And there's a little light there indicating that it's on, just so you guys are aware. Nice feature. And then it's got this nice clip, so you can clip it on your shirt or whatever. It also comes with a magnet. That's what's in this little bag. And you can hear that. It's a very strong magnet. So you can actually put the magnet inside your shirt, or I'll put the magnet on the outside of your shirt and put the mic inside your shirt if you want. That's what this little magnet is for. I've just been clipping it on my shirt with this little clip though myself. And the mic sounds pretty good. Now if you want to put the wrist strap on, it's right here. The wrist strap you can actually just push through these little holes. You can see there's these little tiny holes, kind of looks like nostrils there. So I find if you use like a toothpick and push it in there, if you push it in, it'll literally go in and pop out the other side. And a toothpick is really the best way to get it on, in my opinion, if you want to use the wrist strap. So I'm not going to use that, so I'm just going to leave it to the side there. Now, lastly, we have a micro SD card here, and this is what the camera requires to record to. So now I only have a 128 gigabyte here. I would definitely recommend getting a larger card, something like 256 or even 512, because it just, the more the merrier, especially if you go on vacation and stuff and you're recording like a lot of video footage, 4K, you know, it takes up quite a bit of space, especially if you're shooting in 10-bit, which this camera is capable of doing. So keep that in mind. I'll have links below, guys, for the SD memory cards, and I'll also have links below for other accessories, because they make ND filters and stuff for this as well if you need things like that. So the memory card goes like this when you put it in, right into the side here, and then you push it in. You kind of got to use your nail to get it in there, and it clicks, and now the memory card is in. So there's no like waterproof, there's no rubber door covering that, so I definitely would recommend not getting this wet. If you guys were thinking about using it in inclement weather, I would definitely shy away from that with this camera. Now, I just wanted to walk around this camera a little bit really quick to show you some of the stuff here. Let me just zoom in a little. So, of course, you have the little gimbal up here and the camera. So that's the camera right there, and you want to be careful to protect that. And this has like a magnetic shroud around it. So when you want to put like a wide angle lens on or something like that, it just snaps right on. It's like magnetic, which is really cool. So it makes it super easy to put accessories like the Pro Mist filter or again, the ND filters if you want to control your shutter speed. So again, walking around the camera, we have a bunch of little microphones. So you have a mic there, you have a mic on the back here, you have another mic on the side here. So there's 3 mics, so you can get like surround sound recording from this if you want. And you can also limit which mics you use if you want as well. Now on the front here, you have like a speaker. See that right there? Let me get a little closer. So when you're playing back your videos, you can actually hear them through that little speaker. That's what that is. Now you also have a joystick here. Now the joystick moves around in all directions, and you can press it in as well as a button. And then you have your record button here, which you can, if you press it, it'll start recording or it'll take a photo. If you long press the record button, that'll also turn off your gimbal and turn on your gimbal. So if I press it, you could see how it's turned on, and I'm being presented with this menu. So you just got to select your language. It is a touch screen, so I'm just going to touch English. So now it's giving you like a little tutorial here. And what you're going to want to do is when you first turn this on, it's going to prompt you to activate the gimbal. And to activate it, you're going to need to use the DJI Mimo app. And I'll show you that right now. And it's just an app you need to download from the App Store if you have a, an Apple device like I do, like an iPhone. If you have an Android, you're going to have to go to DJI's website to get it. I'll have a link below in the description for those Android users. But basically, you have to download the app to activate the camera. You have to do that before you can use it. So you have to create an account. I already had an account because I have DJI drones and other gimbals. So I already had an account. I just used that, logged in, and then I activated the camera, and then it automatically updated the firmware on the camera. So I just waited for that, the firmware updated, and the camera's good to go. And when you turn the camera on, it looks like this, basically, after you're done updating. All right, guys, I just want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of this video, which is you. You guys are the sponsor of this video. That's right. You guys are the ones that are watching the video. You guys are the ones asking questions and commenting below. But you guys are also the ones going into that description area, clicking the affiliate links, which greatly helps me out, and I really appreciate it. So thanks again, guys, for watching this video. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and give me a thumbs up as well. And thank you for sponsoring this video. Now that we have this turned on and activated, it's just giving you like a little tutorial about the screen. But you can see here on the top, we have battery life. On the top left, we have how much recording time. So it says 5 hours, 48 minutes recording time on the memory card. On the bottom left, we have camera mode. Then we have, the actual recording mode that you're in. On the bottom right here is the gimbal orientation. So you can, if you tap that, it'll swivel it into selfie mode. So it's telling you if you swipe from the left to the center, that will enter the playback menu. And you can see here is the playback menu. And again, on the top, if I turn the screen, we can get a better view. And up here on the top is where the microphone is. So if we tap that, we could now turn the mic on, and now we have audio. It's a little bit hard to see that little audio icon up there though. But anyways, this was just a little recording I did. And in the playback menu, you can see here, you have a bunch of options where you can heart the video footage or the photo if you want. If you tap this icon up here, it'll turn it into thumbnails, and now you can scroll through all your different footage. So now if you hit the back button here, you can go back to the main screen, and now it's telling you if you swipe from the edge, you can change image and audio parameters, and you can see that over here. This is where the stuff is. It's by default set to auto. If you click the Pro button, that will give you much more options. So I'm going to leave that off Pro for now because I want to show you how to use this from beginner-oriented perspective as easy as possible to use. Again, I'll go over the Pro stuff a little bit later in this video, guys, but I just want to show you how to record, get going right out of the gate. So if we swipe back, it'll get rid of that. All right, so on the bottom left here, we have the actual mode. So it's in video mode, and we can change that to photo mode, panorama, low light, slow motion, and time lapse. So that's how you change your modes. I'm just going to go back to video here. And now that it's in video mode, if you swipe up from the bottom, that will give you your actual record settings for that mode. So as you can see in video mode here, these are my options. So I'm going to put it on 4K and I'm going to go to 24 frames per second because that's what I want to use. Now you can also go up here and change your aspect ratio. So 16:9 is like the shape of the screen. You can change it to 1:1 if you want to, but notice how it's lowering the resolution there. I'm going to put it back to 16:9 and get the full 4K. You have a little icon down here which will give you some more information if you need it. I'm just going to swipe down to go back to the main screen. So now watch when I put it into photo mode. Now if I swipe up, we have options for photo mode here. 16:9, you got countdown if you want to do a self timer, and so forth. Swipe over from the right. Again, because we're in full auto mode here, we have no options. But if we hit this little Pro button, now we have the ability to change the format. See how it's set to JPEG? So you can change that to RAW quality if you want, which is better quality, but will require you to process the photos. And you have white balance, and you have some focus mode options here. By default, it's on continuous focus. That means it's focusing all the time. Just so you're aware, we'll go over that more in a little while. Now if we swipe over this way, we're back to default. Now, if you use the joystick here, you can control how it's looking here. So you can see here, I'm just moving the gimbal around. If you double tap the joystick, it'll recenter itself. See how it says gimbal recentered? If you triple tap the joystick, 1, 2, 3, it'll go into selfie mode. So you can see the joystick swiveled around. So now you can see the camera above the overhead camera there. And if you tap this button down here, it does the same thing. It'll swivel it back. So this button here is the same as triple tapping, so it'll make the camera go forward or into selfie mode. Now up here is your zoom option. So you can actually zoom by clicking this. And now we can use the joystick to zoom in and out if you want. So you're basically changing what the joystick does. If you tap it again, it'll go back to, so you can move it with the joystick. So if you click and hold, you can actually zoom it as well, like that. I'm just going to leave it at 1.0 right there, and that's what that does. So you got the zoom there. So one other thing I wanted to show you is if you tap the battery icon there, it will tell you how much battery life the gimbal has and the grip as well. So again, you just tap that and now you can see 95 and 99. See that? Alright guys, so one other thing I wanted to show you is if you just tap on the screen, a little yellow box will come up and that will set the focus and the metering. And the metering is basically how the camera is going to expose the scene. So watch when I hit over here in the darker area. See how it got a lot brighter? That's because it's now metering for the dark background, so it's going to raise the exposure. Now if I tap over here on the screen again, you can see the exposure drops quite a bit. And then of course if you double tap, that will activate active track. And now active track is enabled, so if I move the gimbal, it's going to continue to track the subject. But again, if I tap over here on the light, you can see how much darker it gets because now it's exposing for the light. Go back to there and you can see how it brightens up quite a bit. So again, that's how you set focus and metering, or basically exposure. So let's just hit the record button here. And you can see it just took a photo because we're in photo mode. So now if we switch back to video mode here and we hit record, you could see it's actually recording video. And now we can adjust the exposure a little bit if we swipe from the right. So if we swipe over, we can now go down and up. So this is in full auto mode. It's giving you the power to be able to adjust the exposure. And sometimes you might need to adjust the exposure if it's like really bright outside, you might, or the camera might be underexposing, or the camera might be overexposing, and you can adjust that just from swiping from the right side here. And then again, the brightness, you could see how it's like a brightness slider. 0 is default, so that's what that does. And again, now that we're recording, we can go up here and move around. If we want, you could move the camera and so forth. That's how that works. So let me just stop recording. Now also in video mode, you have this button over here. If we click that, these are the smart gimbal modes. So you have face auto detect mode. If you turn that on, the camera, if it sees a face, will automatically find it and track the face. That's what that mode is for. This is great if you're filming yourself. If you're recording yourself, like walking around or showing off a product or something like that, the face auto detect will just find you and track you automatically. Really cool feature. The one below that is dynamic framing. This is where you can basically tell the camera where to put the face in the scene. So if it's tracking you, you can have it track you in like the top right corner like you see in this little illustration. It'll like prioritize and keep you on the right side of the screen. So if you're walking along, it'll keep you to the right of the frame, the left of the frame, wherever you want it. But that's what dynamic framing is. And then we have the spin shot option here, which is the third option, and that's how you can get the cool spin moves that you might have seen with some other gimbals. They used to be called vortex mode. That's where you can do this, and those are the smart gimbal modes. We'll swipe back to the left there. Now, if we swipe down from the top, this is where all the other settings are. So if you click on this, this is create and manage custom modes. So you can go in here and create custom modes if you want. So if there are certain settings that you like, you can actually go set the camera up exactly how you want it and then go into here and you can save it as C1, for example, and then you'll have a custom mode with those specific settings saved. And when you go down here to your camera modes, those custom modes will now be in there. So if you click this, you'll now have custom modes in there if you save a custom mode. I don't have any saved right now, so there's none in there. So the next one over here, this will decide what happens when you rotate the screen. So by default, you can see when I rotate the screen, it's going to shut off unless I hit the continue button. That's what it does by default. And when you rotate the screen, it'll turn on by default. So that's what that does. Now, if you go in here and change that, screen rotate and capture, you could turn that on. You can have it decide what you want to do when you turn the camera on for when you turn it off and turn it back on. I have it set to last settings. So if I was in photo mode, for example, and I turn the camera off and turn it back on, it'll be in photo mode. You could default that if you want to a certain setting. So I'm just going to leave that on last settings, but you could select any of these if you want. So screen rotate and capture. So now that I have that enabled, let me show you what it does. I'm just going to let it shut off again. So now watch what happens when I turn it on. It's going to turn on and it should just start recording automatically. And because it's in photo mode, it automatically took a picture. So if I put it in video mode, like so, and turn the camera off. All right. So now watch, now that it's in video mode, when I turn the camera on, it should just automatically start recording, as you can see there. So this is how you get it to just record immediately. So if you see something, you're out, you're on vacation, whatever, something comes up quickly and you just want to start recording immediately, you can enable this feature, and then as soon as you rotate the screen, the camera's just going to start recording for you. It's awesome. So that's what that does. And I'm just going to stop recording. Now if we swipe down here and we go to this option here, this is screen brightness. So right now it's set to 100%, but you can lower that way down if you want. Like if you're inside or it's really dark out, you don't need the screen at 100%. When it's sunny outside and you're outside, you want it at 100%. Now up here on the top right, this is where you can enable or disable the selfie auto recording, like face detect. So it's set to on right now. So basically, if this sees a face when I start recording, it's going to automatically track that face. So if I put this in selfie mode here, aim it down, see that? How it just saw my face and now it's tracking it? And now if I move the gimbal around, it's just going to keep tracking my face. So I'm actually rotating the gimbal here, watch so you can see. See how the gimbal is staying on me? And that's as far as the gimbal can go there, but that's how that works when you have that feature enabled. It's very helpful if you need to track yourself. I'm just going to turn that back off so it doesn't automatically do that, but that's what that feature does there. Now, bottom left is settings. We'll go into that in a second. So this is where you can set your screen rotation. Now, I like it in auto mode, but you can hard set it to landscape mode if you want, or hard set it to portrait mode. I like having it set to auto rotation. And what that does is when you rotate the screen like this, all you got to do is hit continue, and now it's going to be in vertical mode. So now you can record in the vertical format if you want, for example, as you can see here. Or you can just put it back to landscape mode, and now it's in landscape. And you can see how the resolution will change from 4K to 3K when you're in vertical mode. You can hit that button to swivel the gimbal around, as you can see. Now if we swipe down, we have this option here. You can see the little guy running. This is the rotation speed. So this is basically how fast the gimbal and camera will move. Default works really good. By default, like that's how I've had it for the most part. And it'll follow you, it'll track you. It's not herky-jerky. It's kind of like right where you want it for most use cases, in my opinion. Slow, however, will give you like much slower footage. So if you're trying to like move it and you want it extra slow, that's a really good way to go. And if you want to track high-speed moving subjects, like if you have to move the gimbal like fast, like this, that's what this fast mode is for. So if you put it on fast mode, the gimbal will be able to keep up much better in that mode. It's like much more reactive. So this is great for sports, you know, if you're like, you know, skateboarding, BMX bikes, anything like that, that you're tracking your kids running around and you're actually trying to keep up with them left to right. Fast would be a better way to go for that type of stuff. But by default, I just would leave it at default and play with it like that. Now over here on the bottom right is the last one I'm going to show you before we go into the settings. There's a couple of things in the settings area that you're going to want to change, and I'll show you that in a second. So here's your different gimbal modes. Follow mode is by default where the camera is set. All right, so follow mode here, if I just double tap, it'll go back to center. So now it's recentered. So follow mode, you could see if I move the gimbal like this, see how it's staying level? But if I go back, it'll go up. So it'll go up and down. As you can see here, it's going up and down, but it's not going left and right. That's what follow mode does. So this works really well for selfie recording and stuff like that, if you want it to follow you. Now, if you hold the joystick down, it'll actually lock it. And you can see here, it says gimbal locked. Hang on, let me press it again. See that gimbal lock enabled? So now if I move the gimbal around, it's locked. So it's gonna stay facing the direction that I have it locked at. So this is a very helpful feature if you're trying to get close to a subject and then pull back and you don't want the gimbal moving at all. That's what's great about the lock feature. And all you have to do is hold with your thumb. Watch when I let go. You can see now it's disabled. And so now the camera will follow if I aim up and down again. And just a quick double tap will recenter it like so. So let me go back into the menu here and show you the other gimbal modes. We have tilt locked mode. So it's staying level no matter what I do. As you can see here, this is the mode I tend to use when I'm like following somebody and I want to get low to the ground, because you could literally just hold the gimbal like this and get really low to the ground and it'll still stay like on their feet. It won't aim towards the dirt. Get another lower angle here. What's the buddy doing? What's the buddy doing? Oh boy. So you could literally like raise the camera up and raise it down and it stays level. So the first mode, when I tilted it down, remember the camera went down and then the camera went up. And now you can see it's staying level here in this mode. So that's what tilt lock does. Now FPV mode, you can see here, if we X that out, FPV mode, now if you look, let me just recenter it. So if we go to the side now, it's going to turn an angle. See that? So this is good if you really want the cat, and you can see how it's nice and slowly catching up for a nice smooth. And this will aim down as well if you aim it down, or it'll aim up if you aim it up. So this will follow basically whatever movement you input into the gimbal, this mode will follow it. So it's going to follow the same thing that your wrist does pretty much. Alright guys, so the last mode here is FPV Lock Mode. So if you double tap it in this mode, it's going to lock in the same position as the gimbal itself. So if I double tap, it's going to lock it now in the downward position. So it pretty much just will lock it with the position of the gimbal itself. It's just another tool that you can use to get the camera where you want it and have it locked where you want it, depending on what you're trying to do. So it's just giving you a little bit more power and allowing you to, you know, have the camera by double tapping it. It'll lock like in the position that it's facing. Again, I'll show you real quick if I go back to the other gimbal mode. Let's go to Fallow mode, for example. And if I double tap, it's going to lock it in this position here. Watch. See how it put it in that position? In the other mode, it aimed down to the desk because it was locking it in alignment with the gimbal. So now it's locking it in alignment like with the horizon when you're in this mode, the Fallow mode. So that is the difference between those modes. So guys, if we go into the settings here, this is where a lot more features are and set up for this video. So wireless mics, this is where you can go and set up your wireless mic. So you can see here, if I actually turn this mic on now, if I hold the power button down, it actually vibrates and it'll automatically connect. See that? And this is how it worked for me. I didn't have to do anything. It just automatically connected. And then it tells you how much power you have on the mic, and you'll actually get like that audio bar. So that's me talking, see? Check, 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 check. Pretty cool, right? So that's how you get the mic connected if you want to. And now the device is recording with the mic. So I'm just going to turn that off. And you can see it disconnected. Now when you first connect the mic, it might prompt you for a firmware update. It might want to firmware update the microphone just to let you know. Just let it do its thing. And you can have up to 2 mics connected, by the way. And this is where you would go to power it on. And we got the new mic as well, that little mini one that just came out. I'm just going to hit stop, go back. But that's where the options are for the wireless mics. Now gimbal startup direction, you can change that if you want. By default, it's set to forward. You could set that to selfie. If backward would be selfie, or you can have it set to last setting. So I usually have it on forward, but it depends on your use case. If you're always doing selfie footage, you could just set that up to backward, and then when you turn it on, it'll be facing you. Now rotate screen to power off. I like that feature. It's set to 2 seconds. You can set that to never if you want, or you can set it to now, where it'll just immediately turn it off when you rotate it. I like how I have it, because when you rotate it, you can hit continue if you want to do vertical shooting, or just leave it and it'll shut off in 2 seconds. That seems to make the most sense to me. So that's where I'm leaving it. Now wearable mode, they make attachments for this where you can actually have it hooked to like your chest, for example, and you can enable wearable mode, and it'll basically shut some of the stuff off on the gimbal so you don't accidentally tap stuff or change settings while you're recording. And it's a touch screen, so you kind of need it to be deactivated, otherwise it might brush against your shirt or whatever. Now the slider control, that's the option that was on the side of the screen. By default, it's set to zoom. You can change that though, if you want, to gimbal. I'm just going to leave it on zoom though. Now selfie flip, that's like the mirror. So if you're used to seeing yourself and it looks like a mirror, or you don't want it to look like that, that's where you can change it here. I actually don't like the mirror. I like it how it looks where it actually comes out of the camera, because that's actually what other people see. The mirror mode is what you're used to seeing when you look in a mirror. Now press and hold the shutter record button to cancel recording. I have that feature turned on, and that's a very cool feature because a lot of times I'll be recording something and then I mess up. So for example, if I hit record, so I'm recording right now, right? And like, just say for example, somebody talks or I trip on something and I ruin the clip. All I got to do is hold the record button down and it just deletes it automatically. So that recording is canceled. You know what I mean? So it just didn't save to the memory card. I absolutely love this feature, and I highly recommend using it because, you know, if you're doing like multiple passes, like for example, if you're trying to gimbal record something and you're going around it, it might take you 3 or 4 tries to get it like nice and smooth all the way around, or whatever you're doing. If you're pulling in and out from something to try to get a cool, you know, like zoom in, zoom out dolly effect, it might take you 3 or 4 tries to get it. So instead of going into the playback menu and deleting all those recordings, you can just cancel the recording like as it's recording. I really like that, and I find it super useful. Otherwise you end up with like 20, 30 clips and you have to go through all of them because you can't remember which one was the good one, you know, if it's like a day later when you get to the footage. So highly recommend leaving that on, guys. Save you a lot of work. Now we got built-in mic audio backup. Remember how I told you can hit the record button here on the mic and it'll record a separate recording to the mic itself? Well, you can just enable that right here, and that's what I'm going to do. Enabled. So now I'm always going to automatically have a backup mic audio recording on the device itself. So for whatever reason, if the audio gets messed up, I have a backup. I really like that. I'm just going to enable it by default. OTG connection, I'm going to skip that for now. Wireless connection, this is where you can go to get your wireless info. And you got wireless frequency here. 5.8 gigahertz, 2.4 gigahertz. You can do a reset connection if you want. Gimbal calibration, if your gimbal is not behaving correctly, you can go in here and calibrate it. Joystick speed, this is where you can change your joystick speed. By default, it's set to 4. So you got the gimbal and the zoom. You can change the speed of the zoom if you want, so it'll zoom in really slow or faster if you want. Very nice feature. And the gimbal joystick, again, that's set to 4 by default. You can make it much slower if you want. If this is too fast, you can slow that down right here by changing the gimbal speed. I'll change it to 1. And now you see how slow it's going now? So you can get some really cool cinematic shots when you have it set to slower speed like this. I'm just going to leave it on 3, confirm. And then we got video compression here. I'm just going to leave it on HEVC, but you can also set it to H.264 if you want. It's a little bit more compatible with older computers and things like that. If you're having a hard time with the video files, you can switch it to H.264. Now sounds, the camera will beep and stuff when you hit record, and you can turn that off here. I'm going to actually make it low. But you can also mute it. If you don't want any beeping, you can have it muted. I'm just going to leave it on low for now because I kind of do like to hear it when the recording starts. But as you get more familiar with the gimbal, you probably would want to turn that off. It's up to you. Now you got reference lines here. This is kind of helpful if you want to put grids up on the screen. So I can show you what that looks like. Let's just get out of here. And now you can see I have the grid. See that grid there? So it'll just help you with the rule of thirds, for example. If you're trying to frame properly, you want to center something, you can get it centered a little easier with the grid there. And you got this other guide as well, the 235-1 guide. Anti-flicker, sometimes under certain lighting conditions, like LED lights, depending on how the camera, what the camera shutter speed is. And when in full auto mode, you have no control over that. But sometimes the LED lights will be flickering and they don't look good. So you can go into anti-flicker mode, and by default it's set to auto. And you can change the frequency. See how it has the different frequencies? So that'll help if you have like flickering LED lights, for example. You change the frequency and it can cancel that out for you and make your footage look a lot better. Now time code, this is a more advanced feature. This is where you basically can sync up the recording using time code. So if you're doing multiple cameras, you can get them all synced up. And that's what time code is for. Naming management, this is where you can change the name of your folders and file names and stuff if you choose to do that. Now you can turn the screen off when recording if you want. I have that set to never. Auto power off, I have set to 5 minutes. You can change that as well. 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minute, 10 minute, and so forth. LED controls this little LED down here. You can see when I turn it off, that LED turns off. And that just is like a visual indicator. Like if you're recording, it'll turn red. It'll also change depending on what the battery life is at. Continues last live stream. We've got live stream options there. You got your language and you got your format here. So to format the memory card, you can see how mine's almost full already. I have 97 gig on there and it's only a 120 gig card approximately. So it's running out of space already. So like I said earlier, you're really going to want to get a bigger card than what I have. I just took mine out of my drone. I need to get a couple more of those micro cards. And then factory reset, that's what you got right there. I actually did that right before I started this video. So the settings are at factory default here. And then you got device info here if you want. Exit that, whoops. Compliance info is in there if you need that. All right guys, so that is pretty much the basic operation of how to use this gimbal. So again, you know, you could just hit record here to start recording. You can change your mode using this button down here on the bottom left. Your smart gimbal modes are here. And that's pretty much it. So what I want to show you now is a little bit more advanced stuff to get a little better quality, a little more power, depending on what you're doing. So I'm going to show you how I have this set for my personal use. So if I scroll over here, I'm going to go into Pro mode. And I am using auto white balance. That's what that is there. But this color mode here, I'm going to change that off normal. And I'm going to put it on D-Log M. Now you can see the image got a little bit flat looking. That's because I actually have to now process the video footage. So when I bring this onto my computer, I have to apply the custom D-Log M LUT from DJI, which you can download from their website. I'll have a link below for you. So I use Final Cut Pro for my video editing software, and that LUT is once you download it, you can put it in the folder, and then you could just apply it to the video footage, and you get more dynamic range, much more editing latitude, and you could really dial in the colors to your liking a lot easier if you shoot in D-Log M mode, and in my opinion, get better quality. So you got glamour effects here. You can turn that on or off if you want, and that can like make your face, you know, it'll like smooth the skin smoothing and stuff like that. It has a bunch of options in there. You can use the app on your phone to really control that stuff. You're kind of limited as to what you can do here. See how it says connect to your Mimo to view the glamour effects? So it's turned on right now, but you can't really manipulate them or anything. So I'm just going to turn that off. Now exposure is set to auto, and you can go in here and you can change it to manual, like so. And for the most power, you would want manual. So in auto, though, you can change the ISO here, so you can limit it. So right now it's set to 50 to 1600. I'm going to change it to 50 to 800. I don't really want the ISO going higher than 800. There we go. And you have your exposure compensation over there. But if you switch to manual mode, you can now dial in your actual shutter speed, and you can dial in your ISO directly. Now, there's no aperture control on this camera, so you can't control the aperture, and that's where the ND filters come in. So ideally, you want the camera to be at double the shutter speed that you have. So I'm going to have it set to 1/50th of a second because I'm recording at 4K 24. So double 24 is 48. And 50 is the closest I can get. So again, if you're recording at 24 frames per second, for the best quality video possible, you're going to want your recording shutter speed to be double that. So 1/50th is the closest I can get to double 24 frames per second. If I was recording in 4K 60, I would want this at 120 frames per second, like so, because that's double 4K 60. So 120 is double 60. Again, it's the 180 rule, it's called. So you ultimately want the shutter speed to be double what the frame rate you're recording at is. So if I'm recording at 4K 120, double 120 would be 240. So I could then scroll down to 1/240th of a second, like so. 1/240th of a second. Now I'm set up for 4K 120. And you just hit the confirm button to confirm it if that's what you want to do. I'm just going to leave it in auto though for now, because that works really good. And click confirm. And if you scroll down here, you got a couple more options here. You have the image adjustment here set to default, and then you have focus modes. Focus mode is the other option I wanted to show you. Continuous focus is ideally what you usually want for video footage. However, sometimes you don't want that. And if you go in there, you can change it to single, like so, or you can set it to product showcase. Product showcase will turn off facial recognition pretty much, and if you hold something up in front of the camera, it will focus on whatever's closest to the camera. By default, it'll focus on the face otherwise, just so you know. So if you want to hold a product up and you want it to focus on it, that's where you're going to want to have it on product showcase. If you have it on single, you can actually have the camera focused on something, and then when you move the camera when recording video, it won't change focus. It'll stay on what you actually have it. That's what single stands for. So you can get some background blur, and when you move the camera, it won't switch to the background and give you that jerky focus switch. So that's where you might want single autofocus as opposed to continuous. I'm just going to put it back on continuous for now though. Confirm, like so. Now let me show you a couple other things here. So if I put this into selfie mode, let me just hit this little button here, and let me aim it down till it sees my, whoops. I see how the joystick is zooming? That's because I tapped this little button here on the right, that gray button. If I tap it again, now it'll switch it. So now the joystick will control the zoom here, or the actual gimbal. All right, so right there. So by default, if you double tap, it'll automatically focus to that subject. And now if you double tap again, now active track is enabled. So you can see if I move, the gimbal's now following me. See that? So you can just double tap by active tracking. Active track enabled, see that? You double tap and it'll turn it off. So now it's turned off and it's not active tracking, see? So that's what active track does. Really cool feature. And again, just double tapping will allow you to do it. So I just want to switch to photo mode here. And now if I swipe over, I can change the format here. See, it's JPEG by default, so I can change that to JPEG plus RAW if you want. So that's pretty cool. So now you get both JPEG and RAW will give you a little bit more leverage when you're editing your photos in a program like Adobe Lightroom, for example, or whatever RAW editor you choose to use. And again, you also have focus mode to single and continuous for photo mode. And that's pretty much all you got. It's pretty basic. You can change your white balance as well and exposure, which I just usually have set to auto. But if you want to manipulate your exposure, you can change it in here in Pro mode. So again, you got manual mode or auto. You can change your ISO here. By default, it's set to 50 to 6400. You could limit that to something like 3200 I'll limit it to, and you can change your exposure, but you can also hit the manual button here and you can dial in your ISO to exactly what number you want and your shutter speed if you hit manual mode. As you can see here, now you got the shutter speed and the ISO you can change if you want. It's going to leave that on auto though. Confirm. So again, just basic operation for the Osmo Pocket 3. Alright guys, so I got my laptop here and I have a USB-C cable plugged into the laptop, and I'm going to show you now how to transfer your files to your computer and also use it as a web camera. So basically, if I just plug this into the back like so and then turn the camera on, it's going to ask you, what do you want to do? So you can see you got webcam or file transfer. So by default, webcam was selected, so it just switched to web camera. Now let me show you what that looks like. Alright, so I'm recording my screen now. So if I go into FaceTime, for example, you can see it's using the, FaceTime camera here built in. But if I go to Window, or if I go to Video here, you can see, look at that. I have the Osmo Pocket 3 is now an option because remember, it's set to webcam mode. So if I switch to that camera, now you can see it's using the Pocket 3. So let's switch this. There we go. And now if I double tap on my face, it's now going to track my face. So now I'm using this as a webcam and it's tracking my face. How insane is this, guys? Unbelievable, right? I could move the gimbal. I can put it over here on the back of my desk, get a little bit different view there. Pretty cool. And you can see the Mac software, the FaceTime software is automatically blurring the background, which is cool. It does that even with the Pocket 3. And you can also hook the mic up if you want and use the mic if you want for the webcam. I'm still recording with my other cameras and stuff, so I'll sync it together. But you could use this mic in the webcam scenario as well and get a much better sounding, performance. But what else is cool is if you're showing your studio off or something like that, you could use this, for example, and now I could be like, hey, check out my studio, this is how it's all set up, and you can see everything. So this is a really cool way to live stream if you're trying to show off, different things like what you're doing and stuff. So that's pretty much how the webcam feature works. And you can see here, this is what the screen looks like. So it's recording at 1080, 25, or 30, or you can record at 1080, 50, or 60. Those are your options. And that's pretty much it for the webcam. It's very simple. It just plug and play, works great. So let me just shut this off. I'm just going to hold the record button down and that will shut the camera off. Alright, so now when I turn this on with the USB cable plugged in, I'm going to click on file transfer. So now it says connected. See that? And if you look at my desktop here, over here on the right, this SD card just popped up, and that is the Pocket 3. So it's just kind of plug and play. And again, I'm using an Apple. This is a MacBook Pro, just so you're aware. So if you have a Windows computer, it's going to be a little bit different, but the concept is exactly the same. And if you go in here, this is where all the different files are. So you have in here a bunch of different files. Up here, and the DCIM is where the actual video files are. So you can see we have the LRF files. Those are just a low resolution file. It's like a copy of the actual video file, but much lower resolution for when you're playing back on the Pocket 3. That's what those are. So you don't really need those. So what I usually do is I sort by kind by hitting this kind button. And then if you scroll, you'll just have the JPEGs will be in their own spot. Those are the photos that you may not have taken. And then you have your MP4 4 files, which are your video files. So I'm going to go and select all of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click the first one, and then I'm going to scroll down and click the second one. Then I'm going to right click and I'm going to click copy. Then I'm going to go onto my SSD drive here, which is what I edit off of, and I created a folder for the Pocket 3. I'm going to double click on the Pocket 3 folder. Then I'm going to go into the video folder, go into the Pocket 3 folder, and I'm going to paste all 31 items. So now I'm copying over all those items. So that's 20.5 gigabytes worth of video files that I'm copying over to my laptop. And this is basically all the footage that I've taken with the Pocket 3 over the past few weeks. And it's just copying over, and that's how you can do it. Now, if you don't want to use a USB cable, you can actually pop out the SD card as well, and you can put the SD card into a reader and just drag the files off that way. It's totally up to you how you do it, but I prefer doing it this way. In the photos case, I might just import them into Lightroom and put them in a folder with the date that they were taken, but I also would probably put them in this folder as well, depending on what project I'm working on. You know, I usually do stuff on a project basis, so I try to put everything with the project that I'm working on all together. So again, it depends on what you're up to. If you're on vacation and you're just recording videos and photos, you could probably just import everything into one folder, you know, and then go through it as you see fit. But I like to be a little bit more organized than that. So I have like specific folders for different use cases. Again, if I'm just taking regular photos, I would import them into Lightroom, and that's where I have all my photos archived and databased and stuff like that by, you know, year and month and, you know, day, and also keywords and things like that. So it just depends on what you're doing. All right, guys, that about wraps up the beginner's guide for the DJI Pocket 3. Now, please stay tuned because I am going to make another video where I go over the app in much more detail, because the app is actually quite powerful and allows you to do a few things a little bit differently than you can on the gimbal. And because the screen is so much bigger when you're using a smartphone, it's actually a lot easier to use in some scenarios, especially when you're filming yourself from, you know, 10 feet away, for example. You obviously can't see the screen on the Pocket 3 if you're 10 feet away. So the app is really good for that. And it, like I said, it offers a couple of different features. The user interface is quite a bit different as well. It's very similar, but it just works differently. So I'll show you that in another video. In addition, we have some of those other features like time-lapse, panorama, hyperlapse that I want to go over as well, but they're a little bit complicated, and this is a beginner's guide, so stay tuned for the more advanced guide that I'll probably come out with in a couple of weeks for the Pocket 3, and it'll show you off those other features for you. So, all right, guys, again, I appreciate you watching my video. Don't forget, in the description area, I have links to the accessories and a couple other things that I recommend you get, specifically the memory card in particular. You really got to get a large memory card, and you might need those ND filters. And remember when I was talking about the shutter speeds, how you want it double what your frame rate is. I was talking about that earlier in the video. Again, this is for the more advanced users that are like trying to dial everything in as good as possible. If you're using auto mode, then don't even worry about that. Just leave it in auto mode and you'll be fine. In any event, thanks again for watching my video, and I'll catch up with you guys next time. Also, don't forget, ask questions if you have them below in the comments area. All right, guys, take care.